when you step into a massive museum, your eyes are just immediately drawn to the spectacle. Right?
Oh, absolutely. The big flashy stuff.
Exactly. Like you stare at the towering T-Rex skeleton, or I don't know, the ancient rusted sword. The object just completely demands your attention.
Which, to be fair, is entirely the point of a museum. I mean, you're there to be overwhelmed by the artifacts themselves.
Right, but the artifact is only half the story. The part we rarely think about is, well, the glass case that the sword is sitting in.
Mm-hmm.
We don't think about the lighting. And we almost never think about the curator. The person who decided that that specific rusted sword needed to sit right next to that specific dented shield to silently tell you a very specific story about a battle.
Yeah, the curation itself is basically a hidden art form.
It really is.
It's this invisible hand guiding your understanding of history. Without curation, a museum is just, well, it's a warehouse full of old rocks and canvas.
And for today's deep dive, we are going to track that invisible hand through a very modern kind of museum.
I love this concept.
We are looking at a carefully curated collection of internet history. We've got our hands on the metadata of a single, unassuming YouTube playlist simply titled Star Wars Documentaries.
And, on the surface, that sounds like the most straightforward utilitarian thing on the internet, right? Just a list of videos about movies.
Right.
But when you peel back the layers, the timestamps, the uploader names, the wildly varying view counts, the run times, it becomes this incredible archaeological dig into how fandoms preserve their own history.
Our entire source for this deep dive is just the raw data captured from this exact playlist page. It was compiled by a user going by the name Green Goose.
Green Goose.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it contains exactly 12 videos. The playlist itself currently has 6,668 views, and it was last updated recently on May 18th, 2024.
So this is an active, living document.
Exactly. And our mission today is to look way past the video titles. Green Goose hasn't just made a playlist for weekend viewing. They've essentially built a hidden 13-plus hour masterclass in filmmaking, mythological structure, and digital archiving, just hiding in plain sight.
It functions almost perfectly as a university syllabus. You can see the deliberate architecture of how someone is supposed to absorb this massive fictional universe.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because if this playlist is a university degree, the curator doesn't just throw you into the deep end of how they built the spaceships, right?
No, definitely not.
You have to ground the universe first. The first few videos Green Goose selected act as your 101 prerequisite courses. So biography, history, and philosophy.
That's a crucial structural choice, really. You have to establish the philosophical foundation of a world before you can care about, the paint on the walls.
But the metadata tells a bizarre story about what audiences actually care about when it comes to those foundations.
Oh, totally.
So video number 1 is the biography. It's called George Lucas Creating an Empire. It was uploaded by a channel called Star Wars Universe, runs for an hour and a half, and has been sitting on YouTube for 8 years.
Okay, pretty standard.
Right. It currently has about 72,000 views. A solid, factual, historical record of the architect. The guy in the plaid shirt writing scripts in California in the 1970s?
Exactly. But then, acting as the philosophy course, we have another hour-and-a-half video. This one is titled Star Wars, the Legacy Revealed HD Mythological Documentary.
Quite a mouthful.
Yeah, uploaded 5 years ago by a user named Holonet. Now, this one has 575,000 views.
Wow. That disparity is really fascinating.
It is. And I want to push back on the idea of authorial importance here, because the documentary about the underlying mythology has 500,000 views, while the biography of the actual human being who invented that mythology only has 72,000. Why do you think that is? Are viewers genuinely more interested in ancient Joseph Campbell-style archetypes than the guy who actually wrote the movie?
I really think we're seeing the death of the author playing out in real-time server data here.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, the biography of George Lucas is just a timeline of facts, right? It's grounded, it's terrestrial. But the mythology documentary, that dives into Joseph Campbell's concept of the monomyth, the hero's journey stuff.
Exactly. The idea that every human culture tells the exact same story. The hero gets called to adventure, crosses the threshold into the unknown, faces the abyss, and returns transformed.
And that applies to everything from ancient Greek myths to modern blockbusters.
Yes. Audiences flock to the mythological documentary to the tune of 500,000 views because the myth belongs to them. The monomyth is universal.
Right.
Viewers return to it because they are looking for a philosophical framework that applies to their own daily struggles, not just, trivia about a film production schedule from 1976.
That makes so much sense. We want to feel like we are participating in an ancient human tradition around a campfire, not just consuming a piece of corporate intellectual property.
Which brings us to the history portion of this core syllabus, and arguably the most vital piece of preservation on the entire playlist.
Oh, this part is amazing.
Yeah, Green Goose included Empire of Dreams, the story of the Star Wars trilogy. This is a massive 2.5-hour definitive documentary.
Yeah. Uploaded 6 years ago by a user called the 4K Archivist. And it has an incredibly solid 451,000 views.
But the uploader name is the real story there, isn't it?
4K Archivist.
It is the entire story. See, Empire of Dreams wasn't a television broadcast or a theatrical release. It was originally released as an exclusive bonus disc on the 2004 DVD box set.
Oh, wow. So if you didn't buy that specific physical media 2 decades ago, it was just inaccessible to you.
Exactly. And physical media doesn't last forever.
Far from it, yeah.
We are actually dealing with a massive crisis in physical media right now called format rot.
Format rot.
Yeah. The actual physical components of DVDs, the polycarbonate plastic layers, the reflective aluminum that chemically break down and oxidize over time.
That's terrifying for archivers.
It's a process known as delamination. Entire archives of early 2000s media are literally rotting away in drawers as we speak.
So this user, 4K Archivist, is essentially acting like a digital monk during the Dark Ages. They took a deteriorating disc from 2004, ripped it, upscaled it, and preserved it in the Digital Library of Alexandria before it vanished forever.
And that highlights a core value of this fandom, which is independent digital preservation. They aren't waiting for the studio to save their history, they're doing it themselves.
That's incredible. And once that history, mythology, and preservation are established, the playlist pivots. We've laid the philosophical blueprints. Now we have to actually pour the concrete and build the universe.
Right.
And here's where it gets really interesting. We enter the special effects section of the syllabus.
The transition from the philosophers to the craftsmen.
Exactly. The undeniable crown jewel of audience interest on this entire playlist is a video titled Behind the Scenes of Star Wars, the original trilogy ILM Special Effects Makers.
ILM, of course.
Uploaded by Danny Ngoyan 10 years ago, running just under an hour. Now keep in mind, the Mythology doc had over 500,000 views. The DVD archive had about 450,000.
Which is a respectable showing.
Definitely. But this ILM special effects documentary has 6.1 million views.
That is just a totally different stratosphere of engagement.
It's a monumental number.
Right.
But to really understand what it means, we have to look at what Green Goose put right next to it.
Okay.
There is another effects video called Classic Creatures Making of the Return of the Jedi Full Length, uploaded by Michael B. 10 years ago. It runs 48 minutes, but it only has 100,000 views.
Wow.
And then there's another broad documentary, From Star Wars to Jedi the Making of a Saga HD, sitting at 333,000 views.
That is a staggering contrast. 6 million views for general special effects, but only 100,000 for the specific creature design.
Right. So my question to you is, does seeing the man behind the curtain ruin the magic for you? Or does seeing the sweat and glue make you appreciate this 6.1 million view masterpiece even more?
I think this touches on something profound about modern audiences. You know, in a world of completely flawless, seamlessly generated CGI perfection, people are starved for friction.
Starved for friction. I like that.
We want to see the glue. We want to see the sweat, the duct tape, and the matte paintings. It proves that human hands actually built something impossible.
That's a brilliant way to frame it.
The Classic Creatures documentary, while fascinating, is about sculpting rubber masks and sewing fursuits. It's highly specific, tactile artistry. But the ILM documentary, the one with 6.1 million views, is fundamentally a story about human ingenuity breaking the limits of technology.
Right. They weren't just making a movie. I always think of it like watching the Wright brothers trying to invent aerodynamics while they were already falling out of the sky.
Yes.
They had to invent the camera equipment required to make the movie while making the movie.
Exactly. Take the optical printer, for example. The term gets thrown around a lot in these documentaries.
Yeah, I've always wondered about that. What actually is an optical printer? It sounds like an office supply.
Right. But it's arguably one of the most important machines in film history. Before digital compositing, if you wanted a spaceship to fly over a planet, you couldn't just drag and drop files on a computer.
Obviously, yeah.
An optical printer is essentially a mechanical marriage between a film projector and a camera, and they're facing each other.
Oh, literally facing each other.
Yes. You project the background footage of the planet, and the camera physically rephotographs it.
Okay. Got it.
Then you rewind the film, load the footage of the spaceship, perfectly mask out the background using complex photochemistry so only the ship is visible,
Oh.
and then you expose that exact same piece of film a second time.
And I'm guessing if the math is wrong by even a fraction of a millimeter.
The spaceship becomes transparent, or the stars bleed through it, and the whole shot is ruined.
That sounds agonizing.
And they were doing this for shots with dozens of moving elements, frame by agonizing frame. The 6.1 million views tell us that seeing this incredibly stressful mathematical trick doesn't ruin the magic of the final shot.
Right.
Understanding the sheer grueling reality of how the illusion was achieved in 1977 actually becomes the better story.
But world building isn't just about what you see on screen or the cameras they built. It's about the logical rules that govern the universe and the emotional resonance that makes you care about it.
Which brings us to a really elegant section of Green Goose's curriculum, the niche textbooks.
This is where the curation gets almost surgical. Green Goose ensures there are highly specific lenses through which to view the franchise. Whether you are a learner prepping for an engineering meeting or studying classical music theory, this playlist has a specific door for you to enter the fandom.
A customized entry point.
Exactly. We have a video called Star Wars Tech 2007 Documentary, uploaded by Rimranderson 00001 10 years ago. It's 45 minutes long with 168,000 views.
And acting as a counterbalance to that cold science, we have Star Wars, a musical journey, uploaded by Talbot Reardon's Music Mix 4 years ago. An hour and 10 minutes long with 13,000 views.
Science and Symphony. Let's talk about that tech documentary first. 168,000 people watched a 45-minute breakdown of the technological feasibility of machines that completely do not exist. They are spending their afternoon learning the physics of a fictional plasma blade. Why do we crave that?
Because giving rules to magic raises the stakes.
How do you mean?
Well, when a universe is so visually well realized, our brains want to treat it as a real inhabitable space. If a lightsaber is just pure magic, there's no tension.
It can do whatever the plot needs it to do.
Exactly. But if a documentary explains that a lightsaber works via a toroidal magnetic containment field projecting superheated plasma...
Suddenly it has physical limitations, it generates heat, it can short out.
Precisely. If the physics make sense, even pseudophysics based on real-world plasma containment, the stakes of the story feel heavier. It grounds the fantasy in logic. It validates the time you've spent caring about it because it has an internal consistency.
That makes total sense. But logic only gets you so far, which is why Green Goose included the music.
Yes.
The musical journey video might only have 13,000 views, but it's the vital connective tissue.
Yeah.
You cannot understand the emotional weight of a movie without the score.
And specifically without John Williams' use of the leitmotif.
Oh, the leitmotif is such a cool psychological trick. For those who don't know, it's essentially assigning a highly specific melody or musical phrase to a character, an object, or an idea.
Right. Richard Wagner perfected it in 19th century opera, and John Williams brought it to modern cinema. Think about the Imperial March.
Oh, instantly recognizable. You hear those heavy, marching brass notes, and your nervous system is immediately told to feel dread and authority before the villain even steps on screen.
It bypasses the rational brain entirely.
It really does. And Green Goose understood that a complete syllabus requires both. You need the cold, magnetic containment fields of the tech and the pure emotional manipulation of the leitmotif.
It's balance.
So we've covered the mythology, the grueling physical effects, the tech, and the music. The final narrative arc of this playlist reveals the evolution of the franchise itself. But more surprisingly, it reveals the evolution of internet video culture.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this final stretch of videos transforms the playlist from a museum of film into a museum of the internet itself.
The contrasts here are just wild. It's like a digital archaeological dig.
How so?
Well, on one hand, we have the making of Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, uploaded by Lucas Legacy 6 years ago, running almost 2 hours long. And it has an absolutely massive 1.2 million views.
Which is a critical data point in itself.
Yeah.
It highlights a massive cultural shift. The prequel era historically had a very mixed, often hostile reception upon release.
Oh, that's okay.
1.2 million views on a making-of documentary decades later shows a sustained, dedicated, retrospective audience that has actually reclaimed those films.
That's a great point. And beside that, we jump to the modern era with all behind-the-scenes Rogue One.
Yeah.
A Star Wars story. Uploaded by Cinextras 6 years ago, about an hour long, 63,000 views.
Okay, the newer stuff.
Right. But then we suddenly swing back in time to traditional broadcast television. There's a BBC Omnibus documentary, a long time ago from 1999, uploaded by Indie Tim 5 years ago, 50 minutes long, 12,000 views.
So you have modern studio press kits sitting right next to a prestige British television broadcast from the late 90s.
Yes.
Yeah.
But look at the contrast. The absolute wildest artifact on this entire list is this little video called Star Wars Episode I. All I need is an idea webisode.
Oh, a webisode.
Yeah, uploaded 15 years ago. It is incredibly short, only 4 minutes and 19 seconds.
Right.
But it has nearly 500,000 views, 495,000.
Wow.
And the uploader is Emeranderson00001, the exact same user who uploaded the 45-minute tech documentary we just analyzed.
That specific file, a 4-minute webisode uploaded 15 years ago, takes us all the way back to 2009. That is the Wild West of early YouTube.
Just the word webisode itself is like an ancient fossil. It's like saying information superhighway or cyberspace.
It really is. It immediately dates the artifact to an era when we had to distinguish internet video from quote-unquote real television.
Right.
But think about why it's only 4 minutes long. In 2009, YouTube had a strict 10-minute upload limit and a 100-megabyte file size cap.
Oh, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah. High definition wasn't standard. Everything was heavily compressed, blocky flash video.
You had to wait for it to buffer just to watch a grainy behind-the-scenes clip.
Exactly. Early internet archivists like Miranderson00001 were severely restricted by bandwidth. They were piecing together digital scraps. A 4-minute webisode was absolute gold. They were ripping promotional clips and fighting dial-up speeds just to share fragments of their fandom. Fast forward to the more recent uploads on this playlist, and you have users effortlessly dropping 2.5-hour 4K documentaries.
It perfectly traces the shift from corporate gatekept media to an open-source, fandom-archived internet. The playlist documents the technological evolution of YouTube right alongside the cinematic evolution of the films.
It's just brilliant curation. Green Goose built a masterpiece out of other people's fragments.
It reminds us that curation isn't just making a list, is it?
No, not at all. By organizing this specific information in this specific order, Green Goose provided context. And context transforms scattered trivia into genuine knowledge.
So let's step back and look at the whole journey. This playlist, updated on May 18, 2024, with its 6,668 views, isn't just 12 random links.
Not even close.
It is a highly curated museum exhibit. It takes you from the deep universal archetypes of the monomyth and the physical decay of old DVDs. It guides you through the agonizing mathematical reality of optical printers at ILM, where 6.1 million people watched human ingenuity at work.
Yeah.
It walks you through the fictional physics of plasma and the psychological manipulation of classical music. And finally, it traces a 15-year history of how we fought through early internet bandwidth to share what we love.
It's a remarkable testament to how much effort goes into remembering.
It really is. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a thought to mull over. We've spent all this time analyzing a 12-video playlist that documents the making of a massive cinematic universe. But what if someone were to create a 12-video YouTube playlist documenting the making of your own life or career?
Oh, that's a great question, right?
And what would the overarching themes be? Would your highest viewed moments be your overarching mythology, like the big philosophical beliefs you stand for?
Yeah.
Would it be the special effects of your hard work, showing the gritty, behind-the-scenes friction of how you overcame impossible odds? Or would the most resonant piece be the musical soundtrack of your experiences, the emotional highs and lows that bypass logic entirely?
It definitely makes you wonder what your own digital artifacts would say about you.
Exactly. So next time you're scrolling through the internet, remember, you're not just looking at isolated artifacts. Pay attention to the glass case they're sitting in. Pay attention to the invisible hand of the curator. You never know what kind of secret education you might find hiding in plain sight.